We're gonna try this again, and hopefully he's gonna come through better, and we're gonna have a better. I heard him fine, so I'm not sure what happened here. All I see is you just saying hello and waving. As soon as he comes back in, I'm going to grab him again and see if we could get a better connection. Hopefully, I think I was delayed on his end because it seemed like he wasn't hearing me right away, and it was like a delayed reaction. Hola, aloha, mahalo, mahalo, mahalo. We're gonna try to grab Linds again and get this live going and see if we can. Oh, there he is. Let's try this again. Connection and not so delayed.
How's that? Hang on.
It's great, but it's facing the wrong way.
Yeah, I know. What is going on, man?
You have to hit the little.
Here we go.
There you go.
Here we go. Now I think we're cooking with fire.
There you go. Yeah, I don't think.
Oh my.
Is it not delayed now?
No, it's all good.
All right, sweet. Yeah, sometimes you just got to start it over. Instagram does that. I'm digging the shirt.
Oh, Wu-Tang. Hey, Wu-Tang's for the kids, man.
Yep, I'm digging the shirt.
I love the Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah, same. No, so I'm glad that now it's not delayed to where I feel like I have to.
We're actually talking, yeah, because before it sounded like robots, and I was like, ah.
I was like, should I stop and wait till he answers before I say something else?
Oh, well, the worst thing for me is that I just don't get it.
Yeah.
You know, there's all these buttons that say like what to do, and I'm like, okay.
Well, ever since the pandemic and when people go live, it was like so many people were learning like all these new facets of their social media, and they were like, well, wait, I'm confused. Like, how do I do this? And I would get a phone call right before the live, or, it was just funny because there were so many people that were like, I'm not technologically savvy, so, and I'm like, don't
Well,
worry.
the thing is a lot of people say too, like, there's no excuse now, and maybe that's on me. And I could come up with an excuse for it, but it's like all these updates, everything that they do, I'm always like, well, how the hell do I? Okay, all right.
Honestly, if people are not on social media a lot, I mean, it's not their fault. I mean, if somebody is not like on technology doing this stuff all the time, it can be a pain and be confusing. So
Sure.
I don't hold, I always just laugh and we goof around about it and we make, we joke on the people about it. We have, Instagram has all these chaotic things that go around on these lives anyway. So,
Well, I appreciate you having me, and I'm glad that we're here
yes.
and we can actually communicate.
Yes, me too.
These amazing things of technology.
Yes. Yes, it's been a long time coming. So, and welcome to the BKO family. We are happy to have you. We are thrilled to have you, and we look forward to doing work with you.
Same.
Yeah, it's just I love I love working with new people and just awesome, beautiful humans. So I'm always like, oh, this person seems great, and it's so awesome to connect like that and just work for such a great cause. So
I agree, 100%.
yeah, so usually like the first thing that I usually kind of like to talk about and discuss is like your take on bullying and if you've ever really dealt with it on or offline, and like what your whole, obviously we're all against it, but like what your whole kind of stance and thoughts are on bullying, cyberbullying, online and offline, which it's very prevalent, and crazy, right, especially right now online, but just wanted to
Mm-hmm.
get your thoughts.
Well, let's see. I'm a storyteller by trade, so this could end up going. I firsthand have only dealt with bullying on a sense of kind of secondhand, if that makes sense. I've never been a part of it. I have a buddy that's one of my best friends now to date, who growing up we picked on as buddies do. But other people around took that to a level that as I got older, I realized like, oh man, I didn't know that that's what was going on. And he was like, dude, you were actually solid.
Yeah.
He was like, it was people around that ended up taking it too far. And I learned something that was probably early in my 20s. I mean, I'm only 25, you know. That's not true either. Um,
Say there's no
but
way.
and but he so I learned a little bit about him and his circumstance because to me he was like one of my buddies. But I learned like, see, I don't play the games where you jab at each other and poke fun because I don't know the line. And in the same way that I don't understand technology, I don't know that line. So I always said I'm not playing that game with anybody. Like you start throwing jabs at me, like I'm not playing.
Right.
Um, and so I watched him growing up um, take kind of a good deal of it, but he took it in stride. You know what I mean? Like he was able to like kind of bounce back with it. To me though, it was some of it. It wasn't appropriate. You know. And as I've gotten older and wiser, I can recognize these same things in life now, even with peers my age in our adulthood, cyberbullying, all these things, and I'm like, to me, what I did is instead of that game, I like to push it towards encouragement.
Yeah.
You know, because the truth about me and even people I surround myself with, I love seeing people do great.
Yes.
I like seeing people succeed, and I've always been that way. Even in my teenage years on up, I just like seeing people perform well and feel good about it. You know, like what more can you ask for in life?
Absolutely.
Um, and you know, so as you know, being in the entertainment business too, you get a lot of people, and I say this a lot, but I've started going the other way. Like, don't read the comments, but sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm interested. I'm interested to see what people think about my work or what I'm doing or an opinion out there. And and I think there is a distinguishing line between like, well, this is constructive and this is just mean.
I
This
said,
is just damn near mean. Like, and there's no point in that. And then I start thinking about people I knew that were doing this to my buddy or doing this to other people that I knew, and I realized like, oh, they're hurting too.
hmm
And so therefore encouragement to me became the thing of like, I'm going to encourage this person in their weak spots.
yeah.
And I'm going to encourage people in their strengths as well. Like I'm like, encouragement is my gift.
Yeah.
And
That's
so, and I like to pump people up. And I think if I were to have one facet or movement within it, it's like encouragement of the good, of the uplifting, of, you know, like let's focus on the strengths, man. You know,
yeah.
let's focus on gang. Let's get the strengths out there. Let's encourage those. And you know, as far as the negative goes, if it needs improvement, well, whatever. But as far as blatant meanness, there's no excuse for it. You know, and I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm rambling. I'm a
No,
rambler too.
it does. I love the way how you're coming at that because, I've seen there's always going to be people that you can't get through to. There's always going to be those people. But there's also people like we work with bullies. We believe, I've always believed in educating, which is why I like to educate and raise awareness and do so many different things and working with them if they want in mediation. But if they don't, you can't force somebody to do it. So that's where, you have to kind of, block or not engage and move on or do what you have to do because there's going to be no end to it. It's just going to be a back and forth. You could, but I like that your form of, going to someone is like, well, I'm just going to encourage you. They're either going to respond or they're not. And that's the thing. And we can only hope that they respond because I've seen them respond to kindness and before and some
Mm-hmm.
don't. But I think it's a beautiful and interesting place that you're coming from with that because I've never really heard someone say I'm going to come from a place of I'm going to encourage them in their weakness. It's more like they've tried to like be understanding or they've tried to be nice. But I think that's an interesting spin to try to see if you can maybe help someone where their weaknesses or their flaws are because we all have them instead of trying to take people down because that's what everybody's doing these days. It's like, who can I take down? Who can I call out? Who can I cancel? Who can I do this and that? Who can I hold accountable? And even though holding people accountable are important when it's warranted, I think it's overused to the point where people are now just using it as an excuse to attack and bully and hurt people, unfortunately.
And you got to look at like why they're doing that too, you know? And that to me is like, man, I play a lot of video games. I mean, if I'm not making movies or whatever, I'm probably playing video games. And man, there is so much meanness out there on video games. And I get it. And maybe that's where it comes from, just in social media, whatever, is that nobody can see them. They have a username or whatever. And to me, like, I have a hard time. My buddies that I play with, they can battle back and forth with these people that we'll never talk to ever again. I cannot. And like I said, there's that line thing. But what I get from all this is an understanding, you know, what people do, why they do it, or trying to understand why they do what they do, or say the things they say. And there's a hurt there. And what it is a massive hurt, I think, not just in the country, but over the world, man. People are hurting.
Yeah.
And the only way that they know how to feel better about themselves is take it out on somebody else that they find, you know, that may be having success. And going back to what we were talking about too, I also don't believe in throwing pearls to the swine. You know what I mean? So if I'm like, if there's a moment for learning and encouragement and whatever, and then all of a sudden somebody doesn't accept it, I'm like, you know what? I'm out of here. You know, I'm not going to promote any kind of like hate or violence, or I'm like, you know, and so going back to all that, to me, the encouragement part, if everybody could find out within themselves of like, how can I uplift and construct in any moment. We're not even talking about criticisms or critiques or notes or whatever. But if I could find in any moment to where I can encourage somebody, that's what I want to start pushing. Is like, you know what? You don't like the movie, so what? You don't like their style or their fashion, so what? But how can I encourage them individually? Like, you know what? Because that's one thing. I watch a lot of movies. No, I don't watch a lot of movies I don't like. I just watch movies, and some of them I don't like. But I'm like, damn it, you made a movie, man. You know, or damn it, you made a movie. Like, that's a huge accomplishment.
Yes.
So why am I going to spend the next, like, 2 paragraphs just tearing them apart? Come on now.
Right.
You know,
I absolutely agree with that, and you're so right. And it's just goes back to, why take away someone's joy? Okay, a movie wasn't great. I'm not gonna go and dissect and destroy the actors and the writers and the director. Like, you know, I mean, you know, I believe in having opinions. I believe in,
sure, 100%,
constructive criticism. Here's the thing. It's funny you brought that up, because I actually posted something about blocking and, you know, that it's not bullying, because people always ask. And I said, no, everybody has a right to keep their energy clean, their space free of negative or getting triggered. You know, we make sure we have that here. We don't want people to get triggered by things when people just want to attack or bully for no reason. And a lot of the time, people will hurt and disrespect and or bully, you know, they all, you know, go together and intertwine, but they'll do it and then call it an opinion or constructive criticism. And it's like, no, but that's not what constructive criticism means. And that's not what opinion means.
No.
That's what they try to hide behind, these keyboard warriors. Like, oh, this person can't.
Yeah. Oh, the keyboard. I'm so glad you said the keyboard warriors, because that's so real. And it's talked about in my household a lot. Anyway, keep going. I'm sorry. I got excited by that.
No, it's absolutely true. It's keyboard warriors, and then like they get upset when they get blocked. They get upset if you respond. They and like I really, like, you know, I try to teach, like, you know, everybody has to realize that there's differences between, everything has a definition. Like, you know, you can go to Google, we can look it up. It's like an opinion and constructive criticism is not meant to be hurtful or mean. It's meant to be respectful. And in a respectful way, and there's no reason you shouldn't be able to do that. And if you can't, I'm all for having passion, and I'm all for being blunt or honest and saying something, like, because activists and advocates, that's what they do. Some just come across, very da-da, and some, but with bullies, it's more like it. Like, I've seen things, and I've seen that try to be played off as, well, it's just constructive criticism and an opinion. And I'm like, no, I mean, if you didn't come at someone aggressively and trying to attack them, or just and laughing and just making a big joke out of it, that's really not what you think it is. So it's very important, I think, that, like, we teach the difference, because, and I think that a lot of people know the difference. I think they just, like I said, people who do that type of any form of harassment and bullying and or stalking or whatever it is that somebody's doing, they turn around and play the victim. So, that ends up being what happens.
I think you hit it on the head earlier too about teach young, like I think everybody, no matter what generation is, I think that's where it starts, is just as young people, and be like, maybe that's why we're here. Like maybe for the first time, or maybe not first time. I don't know timelines and generations of all that. But like, my goal is to teach younger people, be like, yo, encourage. Like, yeah, tell them what you didn't like about it, but you don't have to destroy their character over it.
Right.
You don't have to destroy who they are as people, or why they wanted to make this storyline, or why they wanted to play the character this certain way. Maybe it didn't work. Maybe nobody accepted it as working. But it's like, man, you don't have to defeat them. You don't have to bury them because of that. Like, I think that's funny. I talk about music a lot because I love music, and I'm not a musician. I don't have the ability. And I've always told, like, my singer-songwriter friends, I'm like, man, I'm impressed by you because you tell your life story. And if people don't like it, that's something that you have to take on. And for me, if I play a character and people don't buy it, it's fine. I just throw that one away. It's something I made up. But my musician friends are telling their hearts and their true stories, and to me, that is like, that's amazing to me. Like, I'm so impressed by musicians and singer-songwriters, or just even hip-hop artists, anybody that tells their own story and has to accept the brunt of that. I play a character and somebody's like, dude, your accent was terrible. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. It didn't work. They're telling their hearts, and people, and so therefore, within all that, to me, is where, like, that's where I'm starting to learn, like, okay, so the youth that we have coming up, let's teach them to encourage despite what they don't like about something.
Right.
So, like, yo, you got up there on the stage and you sang your heart out and you told your story. That's dope. It's not necessarily for me, but man, keep going. Like, I think there's a place within that is very valuable for all. And we're not even just talking about entertainment. We're talking about business deals. We're talking about individuals. We're talking about communities. We're talking about, like, food structures and way to do things. And people are like, well, I don't like the way that we have this volunteer line set up, and da 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 da. And it's like, all of a sudden, dude, you're coming off as a really hateful person, and we're only trying to give. You know what I mean? And I think it starts. I think it does start with the youth. I think it starts with kids, teenagers, and whatever. And especially now in a social media world, I call myself an in-betweener, because I came just as YouTube was created. So we were at the tail end of, like, we had cell phones coming up, but they weren't smartphones. We didn't have cameras on our phones, And there's this weird world that I live in between, where I'm like, I don't know how to use YouTube and all that, but I understand it better than, like, the generation before me.
Right.
And the generation after me mastered it. So I'm stuck in this, like, in-between spot. So I'm still figuring all that out. But within that, I think it has to do with people, man. Like, I think that's where we're at, and I think encouragement to me is what I'm pushing.
I love that. I love that message, and I think it's great. And I I think it's so important, and I think it's unique, and I think that it's a positive outlook to put out there into the world. And this is why I have the people that I have, and I love when I find new people to bring on board, because it helps us grow in different ways, and we got different people that have all these different ideas and perspectives and ways to fight against the hate and the bullying. And and I love where you're coming from, and it's so true. And
Thank you.
you
I
know
love where you're coming from too, by the way.
thank you, thank you.
Because I think I'm sorry, like I said, I'm a rambler, but I saw that my buddy Clayne and Mikey Raymond James, those are my brothers. Like I love those dudes so much. And I saw them for the first time a few years ago when they did a little, and I was like, man, that's so cool, because my heart has always been for people that may not have a voice as loud as mine.
Yeah.
And I love that, and I love what you're doing, because it's so cool that you've been able to take the lives and the social medias and the whatever, and you're able to fit a movement in that I think is really cool. And for me, an anti-bullying movement, like keep the bullies out, man, let's do it. The only place for me in that is encouragement of like, yes. And so you're giving me an opportunity to tell something that I don't know if too many people know about, but how me and my wife try to live in our world is with encouragement of like, you know what, let's build, let's just keep building. And I think that's what's amazing about you and what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That
Yeah.
means I've always been like you. Since it's been innate in me since I was younger to like want to help and give and go bigger and better, and whatever I can do through different means and ways in every avenue possible. And I'm one of those people that wants to save the world, even though I know I can't save the world. But I feel like if we all collectively work together and do as much as we can, we can make pretty big waves. And and helping people and being there as a support system and raising awareness and trying to hopefully one day, it might not eradicate it altogether, but make a difference to some extent that's noticeable in schools, online, especially now since things have gotten so much worse. And like I said, I think the encouragement thing is something we can, build on with you and in BKO and that aspect, and like putting that, out and trying to start something new in that direction and say, hey, encourage people, like instead of always us. And it's something that we do that I don't think any of us sometimes do realize. We're always like, oh, this, that, and the other. And instead of just like looking at the part where we could say, okay, well, I did this and I think it was cool, even though it might have not worked, even though it might have not succeeded, or I might have not have been too great on it. And we can pass that on to other people, and almost like a domino effect but we look at the part of where, hey, you did it, and that's awesome.
Dude, and that's where, I mean, like, that's where I live, is in that.
And it makes sense. It's like, instead of seeing that, okay, this didn't get 5 stars, somebody didn't like, people didn't like this, it's the fact of that you still did something that maybe you never did before. Or I love music too. I'm a music person, so I appreciated like the vibes that you said on that, like when you were saying people, like, when they lyrics and songs and everything, I mean, it's coming like really straight out of like just da da, like, going to Care Bear, like, Care Bear stairs, it's like it's coming straight from their heart when you're a lot of the stuff that you're putting into music, and you could hear it, you could see it, you could feel it, like down to your soul. It's like music, and I feel like music is a really great healing tool. We have some musicians that are advocates, and Ty, who made the song for Bullies Keep Out, from Mikey short, the PSA that he did.
Yeah.
I love that. The song was great. I mean,
yeah.
It was made specifically, he made it specifically for Bullies Keep Out. And I was just like, I love this song. Like, it was beautiful.
And that to me is where I think I get a lot of my beliefs in this idea, is that, man, I can't imagine being a musician at all, because to me, they put everything out there. I just put a sliver of something in this character, this pretend thing, and this, all mine's based off pretend. And how good am I pretending? I don't know, who cares if the audience loves. But musicians doing that, that to me is where I took an understanding of like, I don't know if I could get on stage and sing a song that's about something I feel passionately about or something I've experienced or whatever, because that's, and so I learned this world of like, man, it's the same instinct in a different animal, you know.
Yeah.
But I was able to find something for the world I live in and the people around me that extended beyond just my entertainment world and the music world or whatever, but just people in general. You know, like I'm trying to think of like, so example, I'll take my dad for example. Like he talks about getting older all the time, and I'm like, Dad, you're still moving. Encouragement, you know. I'm like, I'm encouraging you, Dad, you're still moving, you're still doing things, you're still this. You're not old, and don't speak that way. I'm
Mhm.
gonna encourage you to keep going out and doing, you know, trying to play golf or whatever you're trying to do. Like encouragement. Like I started finding these little things, and I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense to people watching this because my brain moves so fast. But
It,
it's like I've started to find because of being able to put it all out there. People need encouragement in all things, not just entertainment, not just this, not just whatever. And that's the thing that I want to push the most is you know what, you may not be the best at this, you may not this. Now taming the animal that is social media. You know, I've done my best in any kind of comment world of being like, man, that's just hateful.
yeah.
That's just hateful. There needs to be no like diss back or whatever to me. Like again, and I also don't throw the pearls to the swine.
Yeah.
I say, you know what? That's just hateful. That's mean.
Yeah.
And I'll leave it at that and I don't answer it again.
Yeah.
I don't look at it again. I say, that's just hateful. Just so you know that that's hateful.
That's
You
enough.
know, so
That's powerful enough in my opinion. And sometimes, you don't keep feeding the gators because they're going to keep coming if you do. And or like I use a comparison, like, keep feeding that great white shark, you're just going to keep getting a bunch of them at you because sometimes people will not, be, sometimes it's easy to block and ignore and not engage. And sometimes we do promote, not being a bystander, stand up, speak out. But it also, every situation is different and unique. There's some situations to do that, and then it's other situations where just like what you do, you just say that's hateful and that's it, and you block or ignore, and it's done. You don't keep giving them the power.
I
And
don't give them ammunition to keep firing off, you
right.
know, and I think that's where the keyboard warriors, I think that's where they live, is they like the ammunition to keep having a reason to come up with something creative and hateful to say back. And I'm like, I'm just not gonna let you have it.
Yeah, because they
You know
want to
what?
bait people to, like, when they fight back, they want to bait people to lash out so then they can turn around and say that they were bullied. And it's like, nah, you kind of just, everybody has a pressure point to where like they lash out when you're bullying them to the point of no end. We all
And
have,
I,
all right, enough. Like,
and I like to think that I like to that I cut off any kind of like pressure point because I'm like, you know what, it's hateful and you're mean.
yeah,
Done.
yeah,
Period. And so I've been a part of a few like different kind of threads here and there that I've seen things go off that way, and I'm like, you know what? This is mean. This isn't uplifting. This isn't working. And I'm gonna leave that there, and then I'm out. And I'm
yeah,
like, and I'm gonna let you know, like, if we can continue this somewhere else in a cool way, and y'all can come to that. But the moment this goes down, I'm out again. Like you're gone. And because I don't see what the point is
yeah,
at the end of the day. I don't see what the point is to especially, you know, there's the art is a, what do they say? Art is an imitation of life and vice versa, whatever. But I'm like, there comes a point where it's like, man, we're not even talking about the art anymore.
yeah,
We're just sitting here talking about each other's opinions and destroying each other over their our ideas.
yeah.
And it's like, man, come on, nobody's growing from that. We're not doing anything grand off this, and I want to stay away from that. I want people only to do great,
Yeah.
and I think the world needs encouragement
The
to keep
world needs
doing good.
encouragement, and like I said, that's why I love that you're saying that, because sometimes we can't find the right words, and you found like the exact right word is that I don't think there's enough encouragement. It's more what you see now is hate and opinions and just these insulting things and disrespect, and if somebody always has something to say, and I always figure, like, if you don't agree with someone, just scroll past it, mute them,
See ya.
block them, goodbye. Like, why? What are you accomplishing by going after, especially if it's strangers? And I always think about your world and entertainment, when you have some of these most humble and beautiful people in that world, that it could be very vicious. Like, how do you swim in those waters? Because I know that it's not easy to do in the world that you play in always. So
Uh, for me, I focus on what I'm doing solely, and what's put out there, what I watch myself. I know when I've done things like on screen that I'm not proud of, or that I'm like, I feel like I could have killed that. I could have made different choices in that. And then I move on. I just move on. Like I finish a job and I move on.
what about like people that are like, you might not really know them, or like, but they're technically colleagues because you guys are all actors and artists in your own right, in your own way? Has there ever been anything like, where you've had to kind of like combat disrespect and attitude? Because I mean, like I said, in the entertainment world, people can be pretty
Oh, well, I'm gonna be honest with you, 100%. I've only dealt with some bad attitudes a few times. Majority of the cast that I've been around and the people I've been around have been just really awesome people.
uh,
Um, and even then, I've never dealt with any circumstance that was within my control either. I may have heard some stories here and there that I was like, wow, that changes my opinion a bit on them. But I've never been in the room really to have a bad situation, because majority of the people I ever work with, they've been sweethearts. Everyone, and it's weird because you hear this, this dark side of Hollywood or this whatever, and I have never really experienced too much. I have dealt with some individuals that I was like, that's a little hateful,
yeah,
or that I can tell something else is going on in their life that but I've never been forefront into a situation that I was like, that I had to put my foot down and be like, yo, you need to check yourself.
yeah,
Like I've never actually been in that situation, and I'm actually somewhat grateful for it, but I know that if I wasn't in that circumstance, that there would be a foot really heavily put down of like, yo, this needs to be checked. And that's a weird thing too, being in situations where it's like, I know that growing up, I stopped a lot of people from being bullied in a sense, because I just don't like to see people, and nobody knows the circumstances others are in, but I don't like seeing somebody put into a corner alone. So I have in my life stepped in for somebody that was unable to defend themselves.
right.
And I take pride in that. I'm proud of that. But I also care about the person doing the cornering, because I'm like, man, I want to fix that dude.
Yeah.
Or not fix. I want them to fix
Like,
themselves. I want them to recognize, like, man, why am I being so damn hateful?
yeah,
Why am I doing that? And it's like, because I know the only way that I've ever learned anything in that way is from checking myself and being like, you know what, I'm being mean as shit right now, and I need to check that. This is on me.
yeah.
Wow, I'm so glad that person called me out. As far as Hollywood, the only things that I see really, there's the work, and then there's what comes after the work. And that's the stuff that I notice about the cyberbullying, all this. And I'm like, man, I can't imagine being, my buddy Klain in this situation. I can't imagine being on that end of reading all this stuff, and you're just like,
Yeah.
Or you can look at anybody out there that's in the media that's getting just ripped apart. Some of them deserve it,
Right.
hands down.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
And then there's other people that don't, and you're like, but I've never been in the room and had to step in the way I did when I was a kid. And that's rough. I think life's difficult to navigate, obviously. But I think there are things that we can do on the internet for sure.
Oh yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
tons.
I think beliefs are a really cool thing. And I think opinions are a really amazing thing. I think maybe nowadays we've forgotten that. And I know growing up, especially with my family and my dad, I'm really proud of who my dad is. He's taught me all sorts of acceptance. It's like you don't have to agree with somebody, but man, acceptance is a really cool thing, even in disagreements. At least for me, like I love, I got a lot of friends that I don't agree with,
Hmm.
but I love them and they love me. They don't agree with me. And it's like, man, if we could move that somewhere into social media again, to where it's like, you know what? I don't like that post, but hey, man, I like you. Or hey, Chica, I like you. Like
Truth. That's
that's what I want to try to move to. That's the thing with encouragement to me is like, man, how can I take this situation I don't agree with, but how can I encourage them anyway?
right.
In love or in acceptance or in something. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the beauty of doing this type of work is that, I like you have this fire and this passion to put something. I mean, I remember when social media started. I came from a generation where I had a beeper and I had to run to a payphone, or the cell phone, the first cell phone that came out,
That's awesome. I remember that.
phone, and it was like a shoe. And we didn't, when we had cell phones, it wasn't fancy. It wasn't, you can go all over, you could take fancy pictures. It was just like a screen that was like this big,
Yeah,
and you
it
just
had word and it just had words on it.
you basically use your phone to call people.
And every text cost like 10 cents a text back then.
And everybody's like on these little pads with trying to like text, and it's like coming out ridiculous. And I mean, social media, I think when I was younger, I think it was MySpace for me. And MySpace, we didn't have all that craziness. It was basically just your friends were on it.
I remember MySpace.
Yeah, you put like your favorite music. You were just
Napster.
chilling there. And it was like, and then somebody told me, join Facebook. Then it was join Twitter, and I still have my first tweet. It was ridiculous, but it was, I think I used the wrong word. I think I was like, this is my first twit instead of tweet, and I was just
That's amazing. That's amazing.
like this is my first twit, and then somebody is like, it's called a tweet, and I'm like, oops.
Nobody told me.
Now if I did that, somebody would get offended saying I'm calling somebody a twit. Like, you can't do anything nowadays, or make a mistake, or say anything, or make a joke without people and somebody getting offended. And it's like,
Yeah.
come on, it's just a joke. Like, they think because you're anti-bullying that like you're still not a human being and you don't have fun.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like this pedestal and eggshells, and I'm like, I am not living like that. Like,
Yes. I'm so glad you brought that up too, because I by no means am perfect. And I think in the world that we live in now, it's like, especially for entertainers or whatever, it's like you have to think about that. But it's like, you know what? I'm not perfect. I've not always made the right decisions in the words that I've said, but I can also consciously know when I put send or tweet or post or whatever. I know that I can look at that and read it before I do it. And even then, those decisions aren't always perfect.
right.
Like, and I think there's a to me, bullies have always been people that consciously know that they're doing something mean and evil or hurtful.
Absolutely.
Human beings are exactly what we are in our mistakes and sorts. Bullies, though, are people that know what they're doing and they take joy out of that, or they take joy in doing that. And that's what needs to get the fuck out, like.
Yeah.
So I think maybe the understanding, maybe that's the biggest thing, is understanding, man, humanity is flawed. We are flawed,
We are.
but it's a conscious choice to be hateful. That's the difference. There's a huge difference there, and that's what I love about what you're doing. is recognizing, man, just don't be consciously hateful constantly. You know, like you can make mistakes. People make them. They do it. It
Yeah,
happens.
absolutely.
But
That's
there's also I know that when I make mistakes that it hurts me, and I'm like, man, I'm so sorry. Like this was a mistake. But when you just blatantly are mean,
yes.
is where it's like that's what needs
That's
to
the
get checked.
that's the
That's what we need to put against the wall right now,
right.
because and that I'm with you 100%
Yeah.
always on that.
We're about being human here, and we're not about, unless it's some like a crime or you know
Yeah,
this. I mean, something that you can't like finagle like around. People are human, and they make mistakes. And if somebody said, "Oh, okay, maybe that was a little insensitive," like if it's not a consistent behavior, no, stop labeling people bullies. Stop labeling people in general, because
I agree. I hate labels in general.
it's labeled. Like you say
Yeah.
boo, like, oh my God, you're this, you're that, you're racist, you're homophobic. And it's like, okay, but really, let's look at this person that you most likely don't know really anything about. And let's kind of actually pay attention. Maybe they worded something wrong. Maybe things are taken out of context. I always believe in getting the whole story, looking, researching, knowing about, so like before you just jump on a mob train and with pitchforks and fire, like, when people say, oh, okay, I was on a set and maybe I was a little bit, tense that day and angry, and I had an argument with somebody, and but then that one argument turned into, oh my gosh, this person is a horrendous bully. And it's like, no, like, stop labeling people all these things because people made a mistake or people had a couple of times human.
I feel like I've learned so much from this conversation today, because like eh, you're 100% right. And I think it's really interesting to check all that constantly, because like, one, I also hate the putting labels on things is just an act within itself that you have to put energy into, and I'm just like, good grief, man. And that's one thing that I do constantly. I call everybody man. I call everybody dude,
Yeah.
no matter what pronoun anyone. I'm always just like, dude. I call my wife dude constantly. I'm
But
like,
just
man.
are.
I'm always like, man, can you imagine? Hey, come on, man. And she doesn't care because she just knows how I am. But it's like, to live in a world where you have to constantly sit there and walk on eggshells. Nobody wants to walk on eggshells.
Right.
And I think the distinguishing part of recognizing what bullies are is it's a shame that we have to actually even say that,
Yeah.
because I know for a fact you and I know what bullies are, but now there's people coming in that are creating this idea of like, well, and it's like, no, they made a mistake and they're wrong or whatnot.
Right.
But there's a whole
There's a whole.
group of people out there that are just mean.
Mhm.
Damn it. And it's like, that's what needs to be checked. That's what needs to be gotten rid of. And I'm all for that.
Yeah. I mean, we have to leave for human error because we're all going to do it no matter
Yeah.
what. Or no matter how big of an activist we are, no matter how big of a mentor, coach, guru, I don't care if we're, who we are, who anybody is, everybody has made a mistake. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's a saint. Nobody walks on water. No. So it's like this whole society that we've now become in, that we've gotten used to, and that seems to be growing worse, that hopefully myself and other people that do the same type of work in other organizations and all the beautiful people out there trying to change these things, we're recognizing. I even took my personal Twitter account down because I was just like, I can't anymore. It was like affecting my energy and my mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And mental health goes together with bullying, and I think that's a lot of what's going on also with mental health besides the pandemic, is how nasty and angry everybody is and how we're treating each other during one of the most crazy trying times probably any of us
Yeah.
ever lived through.
Yeah.
you know
And I guess for me, the thing that I've leaned on is the thing that we started with, is encouragement.
yeah
I've always talked about spiritual gifts, and I know that that's mine, and it's always been mine, and I've fought it even a few times,
yeah
and I've tried to be other people beyond that, and I was like, you know what, man, what's really cool is uplifting and encouraging people to do great, because I love seeing it. Like, it might be somewhat selfish even, because I like seeing people do so good, and I'm like, what can I do to make, my best friends do great? What can I do to see that? What can I do to even see my enemy do better?
Mm-hmm.
And I've started thinking about this more and more in the past like 2 years, especially because I've had a lot of time to think in the past year. Like what can I do? What can be, if I were a superhero? What would be my strength? And I leaned and I found that that's it, is encouragement. Is like, man, I want to take people that have never done movies before and want to do movies, or they want to write an album or whatever. Like, what can I do to encourage that? Because you know what? It's for them. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, whatever you do and you love to do the best, what can I do to help you do that better?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I think if everybody's happy, everybody's feeling good, and we're all doing that, like, man, we're gonna have a pretty interesting, country, if not country, world. And that's where I want to be. Is like, maybe that's where we should start with stuff. And that's where I'm sitting. That's as far as BKO goes. That's I'm the encouragement champion.
You're the
Yeah.
encouragement guy. We now have the encouragement. We have the encouragement. The encouragement guru there, and that's what I love it, because I love everything about where you're coming from. I love everything about what you're saying, and I think it's beautiful. And I think that if we are encouraging each other more in things rather than putting each other down and trying to rip each other apart, and just kind of being more kind and loving and using encouragement to do that, I think we would create not only a beautiful space online, but offline, rather than all the judgment and the so-called opinions and constructive criticisms that aren't, and they're just mean or hateful or disrespectful. And I love that, and we're gonna build upon that, man. However we can, and whatever we can do, different things that we're gonna do. That's your thing, and that's what we're gonna do. And I think it's something that is going to be awesome. I think it's something that we could really build upon and really hopefully get spread around, and as much as we can, and just see people growing off of it, and doing it, like, paying it forward, like, hey,
Yeah.
take this encouragement post, take this encouragement PSA, take this encouragement thing that we're doing, and spread it around and pass it on. And just, and when we have these conversations, because we will have these conversations again, whether it's podcasts or lives or whatever, or events, whatever we're doing, that's just something that I think is what people.
It's a cool thing. I think it's a cool thing too, to think about, like, like if a parent looked at their child, and maybe they're not into the and I know parents think about this constantly. I'm not a parent, but I know that my father encouraged me. Like, he wanted me to play baseball. I was really good at baseball. I was a great baseball player, but I wanted to become an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad, instead of being like, well, he's not doing what I want him to do, my dad turned around and was like, well, I don't know anything about that, but we'll figure it out. That's
Awesome.
encouragement. That was encouragement. Like, without my dad knowing anything of the world that I didn't really know anything about the world. I just know that I wanted to play pretend for a living. My dad encouraged me without realizing. And I think about that now. It's like, man, it's something so small. Like, he had no clue how to help me in this and whatever. What he knew was this. But he switched, and he was like, you know what? I'm just going to encourage my son to do what he loves.
Uh,
Change my life.
and
Change my life.
That's the thing. It could change lives. And unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people are hearing it or were as lucky as you. I mean, I know I wasn't, when there's things that I wanted to do, and it was like there was no encouragement whatsoever. So I think you're right when it's like it starts, because you could take that away from people, and then it can
Mm-hmm.
be bitter and angry and mad. And they can grow up like that. And sometimes they don't.
And I think, yeah, and that's where I want to be, in that world of, like, of what I've experienced, of what I've done, is like the greatest things of who I've become is because people have encouraged me to do great, or to do better, encourage me to do better. Encouragement doesn't have to be like a necessarily a verb that is the end all, but it's encouraging to do something that you love, or just you know, encourage somebody to smile. Just, hey, you know, like, or something, or something. Maybe that's not even the right example either.
No,
But it's like,
how can turn a person's whole day around if they were sad or in a bad mood.
and to me, that I think that's what that I'm starting to try to do. Not starting, that I've done in my life, that I'm proud of. That man, all my friends, I just want to make sure they feel good and that they're doing great. How can I do that? Even when I don't agree certain, I'm like, you know what though, you're doing great in this department.
Right.
Let's lean on this more. Let's do this more. And you know what, this will sort out. You know, whatever. Like that to me is, I think, a cool starting point.
It is.
For a cool humanity.
It is. It's an amazing starting point. It's great, and I think that, you know, like I said, I think that there's so many people that didn't get that and don't get it, and I think teaching that is going to be something that people are going to be like, wow, I've never had anybody, especially even a stranger or an organization or whatever, you know, try to encourage strangers, or even, you know, like I want to surround myself.
It's yeah, and I think you know, the more that we talk about it, the more it's like interesting. Like, how do you do that? But it's to me, it's something simple. You know, it's something simple of just even just liking a post.
Yeah.
Or just liking. You know, I get in moments where I'm like, somebody put up something. It's not my favorite picture I've ever seen, but I like it, man, because you did it. You know, I'm like, or songs, or just even just inspirational things that people come in with themselves. You know, it's like, all right, I like it, man, because you put it up there.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's where I sit of like encouragement. It's like, man, just build them up.
Yeah, that's people need to be built up, and I think that's where even sometimes bullies, they just, it's something
that's where they're created. It's because maybe they weren't built up enough, so they have to try to steal it from other people.
Right, and that's probably where a lot of bullies are coming from. I mean, bullies come for different reasons, but that could be a great big part of something that's all they need. I've seen the simplest things, you know, turn a person around from being hateful or mean or nasty, or, you know, and it's a beautiful thing to see. So I love that, like, you know, that's where, you know, you're coming from. I love that we're going to build on that and work with that. I think it's just awesome, and I can't wait to see, you know, how we can use that to just, you know, make a giant campaign out of it, practically, like, you know, just encouragement, and just, you know, doing that instead of always kind of going to the negative or the worst place. And it's hard, but I think that, you know,
oh yeah,
you know, we need that. We need more and more good things online, especially, but offline too. We need it everywhere. We need it to be taught. You know, a lot of people are growing up and they're just not learning these things, and they're not learning life and empathy and understanding and compassion and, you know, encouragement. And I think that that's where we're lacking. I think that's where we're lacking. And you can see that just basically on social media. You can see that. You very rarely see people, you know, that's the type of people I personally in my personal life want to surround myself with, and people that I, you know, do that are part of my life, and then, you know, people that I do this with and that are still part of my life. But I'm just saying, like, I surround myself with that as a whole, with people, and that's why I always get a feeling for a person, and I'm like, I need to reach out to this person because this is going to be a great person. So I know we are going to like get through, because they extended this to 4 hours, and now they shrunk it down. Not that we were going to do this for 4 hours, but they shrunk it down back again to like an hour. So,
oh yeah, I think one of my other buddies that I did this with once, who does a radio thing, yeah, he said the same thing. So
keep stretching it out and then bringing it back, stretching it out, bringing it back. But we're going to do it again anyway, so it's not a big deal. But I just wanted to know if there was anything you wanted to say to close out tonight.
no, I'm grateful for you, and I'm grateful for BKO Bullies Keep Out. I'm grateful to be an advocate that in this organization, and I think there's a lot of cool things that can come from it, and that's all I would say.
All right,
and I thank you for having me.
And I thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I know you're very busy and working, and which is an awesome thing, and I can't wait to see all that. I thank you for coming aboard. Thank you for wanting to be part of the BKO family. I look forward to doing awesome things with you, and we will be doing this again, guys. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed.
I'm honored. Thank you.
Something from it, and I'm grateful for you, Linds, and we will be doing more, guys, so stay tuned. Thank you.
See you later.
See you guys later.